Ready. Play.
I'm on mute. I need to come off mute.
So was I.
No, I think I put you on mute, Jethro. So on that occasion, it was my fault. Hopefully, Miles will be joining us as well in a minute or two. And as soon as he's here, I'll bring him in. How are you, Jethro, by the way?
Yeah, not too bad. Long day again, but I'm excited to get into this episode and then go watch Schwartzman v Brooksby in Auckland right after this. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, Auckland. Yeah. By the way, are you looking forward, or are you trying? Have you got tricks up your sleeve in how to adapt to normal life back home in the UK, but also trying to cover the tennis through the night?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a case of taking it as it comes, really. Yeah, it will depend on my work schedule. I work quite varied hours in my job, so I'll work around it. I've already got one show planned with you, haven't I? So
exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm off for a week or two. Oh, in fact, I'm off for 2 weeks. I might have just a couple of brief stints at work in that 2-week period, but pretty much off for 2 weeks. Hi, Ashley. Hi, D as well. As we call this guy D, but you'll like them because I think he's a Dominic Thiem fan, as you'll see from his picture.
Good.
I'm going to introduce the concept of today's show, so pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, I'm going to throw out a name, and Jethro and I, and hopefully Miles too when he joins us, we are going to make the case for and against said player to win the Australian Open singles, men and women. So I could say, for example, Jethro, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Just an example. I want the case for Boris Becker.
Well, we're talking what, 2020. We're talking 2023.
Here's the case for Boris Becker. He's no longer behind bars. Now you give me the case against.
Well, he's been retired for 30 odd years. He's not an athlete anymore, and well, he's doing.
He was an athlete. By the way, hi Miles.
Hi,
hey
everybody.
Just explaining the concept. I think Jethro's got it now anyway, and I'm hoping the audience have too. I was just saying, basically, the concept is I'm going to throw a name out, and I'll say, Miles, tell me why XXX player is going to win the Australian Open. Jethro then conversely will give us a case against, basically. So I gave him a bit of a curveball. I said, give me the case for or against Boris Becker. And I said, listen, he's no longer behind bars. That's the case for. And Jethro obviously had a fairly lengthy list of reasons why he won't. But that's basically it. Any questions, Miles?
I got it.
All great. Good. Jethro, you got any final questions before we go in?
Nah, I'm all good.
Great. So let's begin with Jethro. I want you to give me the case for Rafael Nadal to win the men's singles in Melbourne.
Okay. Yeah, well, obviously won it last year in pretty amazing fashion. He's a player you can never count out, and we learned that even more on multiple occasions last season. It's going to be tough, but he's got the tennis, and if he gets a good draw and doesn't face Djokovic, it could happen. It could definitely happen.
Great. Miles, give me the case against.
I think he has a good run of form to get to possibly the second week, but I don't know if he has the it's kind of weird to put moxie or not having enough moxie and Nadal in the same sentence, but maybe because I haven't seen him lift the trophy since the French Open, I kind of feel like he doesn't believe he can actually go that far. I know he has tons of experience to lean on, and he's a defending champion, but I kind of feel like he is questioning his level of tennis in association with his body. So a mixture of his health and just his tennis not being able to produce elite levels enough to beat the likes of Cam Norrie or Alex de Minaur in the past week or two, leave me with some question marks if he's actually going to go all the way to lift the title.
Fair enough. And I loved how succinct you both were. That's exactly what I want. I'll just say avoid Novak Djokovic, and anyone's got he's one of about 10 players that has a chance. Case against is, well, I think all of what Miles said. I was really interested as well what you said there, Miles, about the confidence thing. It is something that he talked about on camera, off camera, if you like, during the United Cup, in one of those moments on the bench. I think it was just before the final game against de Minaur. And he's also losing to good players, but he's not losing to Djokovic. He's not losing to Red Hot Felix indoors. And he's not losing to Daniil Medvedev of 2019. So there we go. Anyway, let's move on because we want to be quick paced here. Maybe somebody here is going to say something as well in the live chat other than Rafa's the GOAT, Father Time. Exactly. Very good there. Pro and con. Okay, listen, let's begin with you this time. Miles, give me the case for Caroline Garcia.
Confidence. I think that she realizes that she has a second chance at this this elite level, maybe top 3, top 2, even maybe number 1 as the season progresses. And she realizes that time is kind of ticking, so she needs to swing big and produce her aggressive style of tennis that won her Cincinnati, the WTA finals, and got her to the semifinals of the US Open. So if she rises that way with confidence, I don't see why she can't lift the trophy in Australia.
Fair enough. Give me the case against Jethro.
I mean, I guess if I'm giving a case against, it's not going to be anything negative towards her. It's just going to be about how well her rivals play, I think. I think she's going to do well, but yeah, I think if she runs into an unbeatable Swiatek or Sabalenka's peaking or someone like, there's a lot of firepower on the WTA tour, and someone could come along and just have a really good day against her. She could have an off day, she does sometimes. And so that's really all I can think of that would put her out of contention. But yeah, her chances are decent. But yeah, I think there are players who can raise their game against her, like Iga and maybe Sabalenka and Ons maybe. So yeah, it's for me, it's all about the competition when it comes to her.
She's in the band just below the sort of, well, Iga's number 1, but a very narrow number 1 for me. And then she's in the next group of potential winners who wouldn't be a surprise if they won it. Then there's the next group, which is probably 50 players. Anyway, okay, let's go for the next one. Let's begin with you again, Miles. Quite an easy one for Miles and maybe a little trickier for Jethro. There's a clue. Miles, I want you to give me the case for Novak Djokovic.
Oh, darn.
Here we go.
You've got 30 to 60 seconds, preferably.
Got it. Talent with a mixture of history. I think anybody that realizes that they have been so successful at one tournament shows up to that tournament realizing that they can do it again, especially off the heels of winning a title last week in Adelaide. I feel like, again, similar to what I said with Caroline Garcia, he has uber amounts of confidence. History is on his side. He hasn't lost there since 2018, I believe. So there's very little that leads me to believe that he actually won't win it again. So
give me the case against Jethro.
Well, if Dennis Istomin or Hyen Chung somehow get last-minute wildcards, then yeah, that's pretty much it. No, I mean, and maybe we'll get a vintage Stan Wawrinka performance and he meets Djokovic in round 1. Who knows? It's going to take something very special. And if it's going to take a special performance to beat him. And if that's going to come from someone, I'm probably going to say it's either come from Jannik Sinner, I think can match up quite well against him. I don't think Medvedev is going to be too confident going into a match with him if they do play, because yeah, the conditions in Australia are just so much more suited to Novak, whereas Sinner's probably better on the quicker court. So I'd probably have to say either Sinner or someone who's just absolutely hitting the crap out of the ball. If he meets Dominic Thiem round 1 or 2 and Thiem's found his A game from 2020. There, I'll give Team Sinner or Wawrinka as my answers to taking him out.
Yeah, it's very easy to make the case for. I would just say, really, the draw is probably the best thing to sort of clutch at if you want to see someone fresh and new winning it. If he just has back-to-back misfortune with the draw, whether it be Rune and Felix, if you like, and Medvedev can beat him in a major final, but it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, and probably there's too many stars that will have to align to prevent him. But who knows? Okay. Next on our agenda, and I'm going to ask Jethro to commence with this one. Give me a case for Casper Ruud winning the Australian Open.
Well, I think I'll start with saying he needs a decent draw, but this is a guy who got to two Grand Slam finals last season, and that was no fluke. He also got to the ATP final last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got to the final again, because he's good at getting to finals. The next step is winning these big tournaments. So he would probably need to face someone that isn't called Novak Djokovic, and who knows? There's quite a lot of people who said that he wasn't competitive against Alcaraz in the US Open final, but he was points away from taking that to a 2-1 lead, and just played a terrible tiebreak. But yeah, I think there are chances there. He's certainly in my top 10, maybe kind of top 7 kind of rankings for the title. So yeah, he's got a chance.
Give me the case against Miles.
I just don't believe if he believes he can really, at this point in his career, lift a hardcourt major. I feel like he fancies himself almost 150% on a clay surface. I think he's fit enough to go deep. I just don't know if he has the confidence to see himself lifting the trophy on the final Sunday. And he hasn't won a hardcourt title. He's gone deep in some very prestigious hardcourt tournaments, but he hasn't won a hardcourt title upwards of a 250. So in my mind, it would be kind of a stretch for him to go from San Diego 250 to Australian Open champion. So
fair enough. I think it's probably slightly harder to make the case for, but he's one of 10 players that if they're in the opposite side to Novak Djokovic, they'll think, well, Casper Ruud will think, I can beat Matteo Berrettini. I did it a slam last year. I can beat X, Y, and Z. I've just got to the ATP Tour finals, I beat Andre Rublev there. So, if you're not in the half of Novak Djokovic, you'll say, I've got a chance of getting to the final. Okay, next on our list, and I'm going to throw another curveball, I think, by simply putting this name on the screen. And the first one of you two that knows who this is can answer and give me a case for them winning the Australian Open. If I'm sounding a bit cryptic right now, the reason being is simply this. Tell me the reason why this person is going to win the Australian Open. So who is this?
Qinwen Zheng?
Very, very, very good. Very good. We could have got in all sorts of trouble there, but we got it bang on. And by the way, if I've got this wrong, viewers, and I may well have, blame Google. I actually put Qinwen Zheng into Google, and it actually said, did you mean this? And by the way, this could be vegetarian lasagna for all I know. But as far as I'm aware, it's Qinwen Zheng. So
I was a bit worried that was just someone's name, just in Japanese, and we just had to guess. I was just like, "Well, I'm not going to get that, am I?"
I've got this right, and I don't get both cancelled and taken down from YouTube. Listen, Miles. Either way, give me the case for Qinwen Zheng winning the Australian Open.
Wilder things have happened. I don't think anybody saw Sofia Kenin as like maybe outside of a top 15 seed winning the 2020 Australian Open. And I do believe the WTA, outside of the dominance that Iga Swiatek showed for most of 2022, is in a state of, for lack of a better term, flux. So with somebody with her game style that has actually shown the talent and weapons enough to beat Swiatek, I don't see where we live in a world where it's not impossible. If she catches fire for 2 weeks and has a favorable draw, I can totally see her winning the Grand Slam of the Asia Pacific.
There you go. Nicely rounded off there. Give me the case against Jethro.
I think it will just come down to experience. I think she's playing Kvitova in the morning, actually. So I'm quite keen to see how that match goes because Kvitova started the season really, really well. But yeah, I just think it's experience. I do really think she's going to be an amazing player. I've thought that ever since the French Open, really. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she did entirely. Like there'd be a lot more surprising winners than her. But yeah, I'm not sure if she's experienced enough yet to go 7 matches unbeaten. That's what it comes down to for me. And there are so many other good players who can beat her because I see
both. I see both of what you're saying. She's for me in a third group, which would be surprising, but not as far out there as you said. Kenin winning, maybe even Ostapenko in Paris, for example, and Vondrousova as well, who made the final. I think the same. Was it Vondrousova against Ostapenko? Was it Ostapenko Halep? Wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. And Vondrousova versus Barty or Rybakina or winning.
Yeah, Rybakina, Wimbledon.
Yeah.
They've probably
even Swiatek's first Roland Garros was a big shot. So
yep, she was unseeded outside the top 50, I believe. So.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go with you, Jethro. Give me the case for Matteo Berrettini winning the Australian Open.
Well, I actually put him probably slightly above Ruud. He looked really, really good in the United Cup. I know he did lose to Fritz and Tsitsipas, but these were really, really tight matches, which kind of a few points decided, the sets, those tie breaks. And yeah, he's looking really, really good. His backhand's looking pretty solid. He cannot come up against Nadal or Djokovic because they will just exploit that backhand. But yeah, I mean, if he gets on the good side of the draw and he goes on a rampage at a slam, he's one of the best ATP players in the best of 5 set level. He's made 5 straight Grand Slam quarterfinals, and because he's been injured in between all of them as well. So and he got to the quarterfinals of the US Open last year, playing probably the worst tennis I've ever seen him play. So I think the way he's playing right now, I think he is a scary prospect for anyone to face. So yeah, I think on the right side of the draw and, not facing Nadal or Djokovic, I think, well, unless Nadal's, not in good form at all, then I think he's in with a shout.
Miles, what's the case against?
A couple of reasons I have to pick up off what Jethro said. He does have a curious case of as soon as he kind of starts to pick up momentum, he picks up an injury bug. So that might work against him in some way. Although he is a good Grand Slam player, I do think he's kind of injury susceptible. Maybe it's because of his build or kind of how he goes about his tennis or training or so off the court. I'm not sure. And then I would say also the backhand is just a glaring weakness. I think he's trying his best to knife through it. But if somebody pins him in that corner and does a really good job of it or goes backhand to backhand against him, I think he had a matchup against Nakashima in the first round at last year's Australian Open or early rounds. And
he played Carlos Alcaraz third round as well. He had a tough run, really.
Yeah. There's a couple of matches that we've seen in Grand Slams that could have gone either way. He has a great fighting spirit, but if he puts himself in one of those deep battles, it could just be a flip of a coin and it might not go his way.
He's getting closer to Rafa as well, and a Rafa off color. I don't even think that maybe Rafa would scare Matteo right now, but I still think if he's ever going to win a slam, it'll be on the grass courts of Wimbledon. Okay, next one is Jethro. Give me the case for Aryna Sabalenka winning the Australian Open.
Well, I'll start off by saying it's really nice to see her in the position she's in now compared to the last Australian swing, because poor girl couldn't hit a serve over the net to save her life, and she's now started the year with a title in Adelaide, and that's great. She finished the year really strong, making the finals of the WTA finals, and she's one of those players who can just peak from a lot of matches in a row and just keep smacking down serves, huge ground strokes, and she's got really good fighting spirit, and she's so hardworking. And if she's the kind of player that if she does face a top player like Swiatek, if Swiatek is having an off day like she did in Fort Worth, Sabalenka's there to just take advantage. So I don't see why she can't win this tournament. I think she's quite high up in the odds as well. So yeah, in with a
Fair
chance,
enough.
definitely.
Give me the case against Miles.
I hate to do this to her, and I hate that you put me in this situation because I'm before the draws actually come out, I want to pencil in Sabalenka as my champion. However, I do believe if there's anything that's going to hold her back, it's going to be although she's shown signs of shoring it up a little bit more, the instability of her serve and in general, her game can just go awry because it's so big. And on top of that, I do believe that she's started to develop some kind of mental scarring. She's been to 3 Grand Slam semifinals and arguably could have won all 3 of them, but didn't win any of them. So if she gets to that stage again, we'll have to see what type of determination and positive energy that she has to kind of fight through some of those demons. And if she doesn't have it on that day, she's not the winner. So that's my case against.
Very good cases, I think, from both of you. Yeah, Scar Tissue couldn't agree more. Up a break as in the decisive set against Swiatek, amongst others, and there's that, and we don't know what she's like. But case 4, for me, is probably as strong as it's ever been, and form is pretty good. She was possibly the best player at the WTA finals. I know she lost the final, but in a very high quality match against Garcia, and I think she has the biggest game on tour that's capable of troubling Swiatek. She beat her in the WTA finals, if I'm right, in the semi-final, Miles. Am I right on that one?
She beat Swiatek, yeah.
Yeah, and she pushed her very close in New York as well, probably closer than anyone else did. Boom. Okay, let's move on to our next player, which is, Miles, give me the case for Daniil Medvedev winning the Australian Open.
Good one. I think his form doesn't necessarily show on paper that he's in prime at prime level to win the Australian Open. However, being a 2-time losing finalist, I think he has some motivation deep down in his gut to finally lift that trophy. Honestly, when I was tuning up to watch their semifinal between Djokovic and Medvedev in Adelaide, they're 2 of the best hardcore players in the past 3 or 4 seasons. A lot of people are they can't handle Medvedev when it comes to neutrality of the rallies and, mix that in with a really large serve. I think he just likes the conditions there. Again, it's a hard court, and he's been there. He's won 6 matches there before. Why can't he win a 7th? So I think he can do it.
Very good. Give me the case against Jethro.
Yeah, I think it's a real shame with Medvedev, what we've seen over the last year, because if you asked me this a year ago, I'd be racking my brain thinking, how is he not going to win the Australian Open without Djokovic there? And now he is there, and Djokovic isn't the only worry. I'm really just concerned about his form. He's lost so much edge to his game. He's making so many more errors than he used to. It used to just be impossible to break down from the back of the court. He's lost a lot of serve potency. Players like Tsitsipas and Kyrgios last year have really developed a very good tactic and a way of beating him. And, Djokovic was implementing that in Adelaide with the serve and volley. And it just feels like he's lost a lot of his form and a lot of his kind of dominance, and people are figuring out his game. And I think it's still going to be a while until we see him back to his best and he kind of figures out ways to bring new elements into his game. And I think it's too soon. And there were matches in Adelaide where he played really well. But then, his foot, he couldn't bring anything to the table against Djokovic, really. So, yeah, I don't think he'll go out early, but I think if he comes up against, a top player who's playing really well, it's going to be, tough to see him getting further than the quarterfinals or semifinals in the way he's playing.
Barely remember him winning a match against a top 10 player for about the last 12 months. He may have done, or top 8 player perhaps, because he lost all of his matches in Turin. And 3 words probably for me, lost his mojo. Okay, next on my list, give me the case for Miles and Jethro against, but for you first, Miles, give me the case for Coco Gauff winning the Australian Open title.
Okay, I would love to see it. Another player that comes in off of the heels of some really, really good confidence, winning the winning the title in Auckland, and I believe she was a sniff away from beating Kenin at the 2020 Australian Open. So she has some recollection of that court and the arenas being good to her and just kind of having a good vibe there. I think she gets really, really good crowd support almost everywhere she goes. So a mixture of crowd support, an improved serve, and an improving forehand, and confidence off the heels of a title. I don't see why she can't do it.
And Jethro, give me the reason why Coco Gauff will not be winning this year's Australian Open.
Gosh, it's tough because the game is there, I think, for the most part. Like, I don't think the forehand's as bad as people on tennis Twitter say, to be honest. It's certainly not a strength, but yeah, I think it's similar. Like, she's got the game, but I'm just worried about the competition again with so many good players. Lots of people entering with good form, and I would still consider her a contender, even though I'm arguing against her. But yeah, I just think she can do really well. But I think in one of the late rounds, I think she'll make the second week. But I think she will run into someone who's just having a better day than her. Yeah, this isn't. I don't like so far. This just isn't a slam I see her winning yet. If we're talking French Open or Wimbledon, then and all the US Open for that matter, then that's another question. But yeah.
I think it's more difficult to compile a case for right now, just because I have her in my third group. In that group, if you like, I've got Sabalenka, I think, and maybe Garcia and Pegula. I'm fine with putting them, any of those three, in whichever order you want. Probably behind Swiatek, and then there's the next group of which Coco Gauff is in. Okay, Jethro, just so you know, as soon as I see Diego swing his racket, or actually, more importantly,
got it on tennis TV. We're all good. We're all good.
Oh, okay. Are they warming up yet?
Yeah, they're just warming up.
Okay, so hopefully we'll be done in the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure we'll be, because we are down to my last few players. Okay, Jethro, give me the case for Taylor Fritz winning the Australian Open.
Yeah, I can totally see that happen. He's elevated his game amazingly in the last kind of 18 months or so. Serves really good. The backhand is so much better than I remember, in previous seasons gone by. The forehand's been a weapon since he broke onto the scene. And the backhand's so solid, and he can really use that as a weapon. He takes it so early. And on the quick hard courts, that's a real weapon. He's so good at taking time away from his opponents. And with the speed of the court in Australia, that's going to serve him really well. He had that bonkers match with Djokovic in 2021 when Djokovic got that ab injury. And Fritz managed to lose that and also go on to lose against Nadal, who also had an ab injury at Wimbledon. So as long as he doesn't face an ab-injured Nadal or Djokovic, I'm sure he can give them a challenge if they're completely fit, I reckon. So yeah, no, I don't. I think I'm not even really thinking about the draw for him. I think he's got the tools to beat anyone. He's so good on both wings. His movement's a lot better than it used to be, and he's got a great serve. Yeah, I think he's probably a top 6, top 5 contender for sure.
Give me the case against Miles.
I think my biggest argument for him not winning it is because I can't remember a time when we go into a Grand Slam where Taylor Fritz has actually been in the top 5 or 6 names. So I'm interested to see how he's actually going to cope with that. As much as I have really enjoyed watching him over the past 6 to 8 months, and I'm super impressed by his ability to up his level in tennis, especially against some really good competitors, I do question his thought process and belief in himself once he gets to that second week, because if we're being honest, him being in the second week of a Grand Slam is relatively new for him. So if he can get past that quarterfinal stage, maybe we might see some question marks. And if those question marks are popping up in his head, if a game opponent is across the net from him, then it doesn't look too good for him.
Cool. Okay, give me the case for Miles. Give me the case for Jessica Pegula.
Oh man, I picked her to win the U.S. Open actually, and she was kind of close. I think she's a really, really good hard court player. I feel like that's where she gets the most out of her game. Watching her beat Swiatek and just really kind of be an anchor for the United States team in the United Cup this past week was good to see. there's not much that can go wrong in her game. I've never seen her kind of just have a really tremendously off day. She's off the heels somewhat of the biggest title of her career at the WTA 1000 in Guadalajara. The surfaces may play similar. I don't think it's going to be similar as far as altitude. And a lot of players don't have a necessary game plan against Pegula, so she may use that to her advantage. She does everything solidly, and that may solidly have her lifting the title.
Case against Jethro?
Yeah, I think she's going to be tough to beat, but I do think that the power players, as the tournament goes on, are probably going to be the ones who can put her away. Oh, sorry, my cat's going nuts.
Is your cat a Pegula fan? Maybe Pegula not happy with your Pegula prediction or comment.
Yeah, no, I think someone like Sabalenka or Garcia, I know we've mentioned them already. I think they've got the game to take her down. She's a great, she's so good defensively, and she's so hard to put away, Pegula. But I don't know. She hasn't reached a slam final yet, and Australia is a tough place to go and win when you've never been to a final before. But she played really well at the United Cup, so Swiatek's going to have to up her game if they do come across each other again. But yeah, I'm just not convinced she has everything to beat all the top players who come against her in the Australian Open.
Cool. Jethro, why is Stefanos Tsitsipas going to win the Australian Open?
Yeah, I can see it. He's in really, really good form. He's made 3 semi-finals at the Australian Open before. And his issue has been Daniil Medvedev in the semi-finals. And if that does happen again, I'm probably going to be favouring Tsitsipas in that matchup, because he seems to have unlocked something in that, in that matchup, and he's figured out a way to beat him. And I would never count Medvedev out of reaching an Australian Open final, but I think Tsitsipas is doing a really good job of adding a lot of elements to his game. He's hitting the ball really hard. He's serving great. His forehand's really, really solid, and his backhand's improving. And yeah, I think, and he's got the game. And we saw him play against Djokovic in Paris. He really took the game to him, and he could have won that match. So yeah, I think he can be a threat against anyone in Australia.
Cool. Before I come to you, Miles, for those of you watching, make sure you hit the like button. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be with you pretty much 24/7 throughout the Australian Open, give or take a couple of hours. But now, Miles, pause for breath and tell me why Stefanos Tsitsipas is not going to win the Australian Open.
I think he has all of the tools, physical tools, to win almost every tournament he enters. I think something happens when he looks over to his box and sees his dad, or the combination of his dad and somebody else who may be entering as a consultant on his team. I think he starts to think too much. I think even if he's in like really comfortable winning positions, he, for some reason, doubts himself in his game, or he starts to think too much about what he should be doing on the court instead of just letting it flow. And all of that makes him seem a little bit stiffer than he needs to be in very clutch moments. So if he has one of those performances where to me, it looks like he's thinking too much and not just allowing his natural game to flow, I think there's a couple of players who fancy taking advantage of that, just like somebody by the name of Daniel Galan. First round of U.S. Open. I mean, it could literally be anybody. We've seen Stefanos beat people that he should be beating and lose to people that just on paper you think that he should be beating comfortably. So it's up in the air.
Yeah.
For me, he wins the tournament because he's the second best player on tour right now over a short period of time, admittedly. And the reason he doesn't is Novak Djokovic. Okay, next one. Let's go with why Jethro is Iga Swiatek going to win the Australian Open.
Yeah, well, the most dominant tennis player, men or female, last season. 2 slams. I think that she's just getting so good at adapting to whatever challenges come her way. She was close when she got to the semi-finals last year, and she lost to Danielle Collins, but like the level that she's gone to from that level over the last year is just extraordinary. And when she's playing at her best, I'm not sure anyone can beat her. Unless it's on a grass court, I'm not sure anyone can beat her right now at her best.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, really.
Miles, why is she not winning it?
As much as I do believe that she's really good on hard courts, I still don't think that she is as elite on hard courts. She's defending semifinal points. She realizes that a lot of the tennis world just expects her to kind of lift this title with the trajectory that she's been on since March of 2022. But something in my WTA bloodstream, I guess, for lack of a better term, tells me, and just history tells me, that the players that get hot for a while in WTA tend to cool off, and it would not surprise me if she has a performance that starts to cool her off at the Australian Open, especially off the heels of how she looked against Jessica Pegula. She could have a performance where it's just not clicking, and sometimes we've seen her in some of her matches when it's just not clicking, not be able to kind of fight and scratch and even make it competitive sometimes. So if she has one of those days at the Australian Open, it could be somebody that looks like Alizé Cornet knocking her out. So
fair enough. Okay, Miles, Maria Sakkari.
My favorite. Well, I shouldn't say that because people already tell me enough that I kind of, am too easy on her sometimes. I think she just, when I watch her play, I just see such natural athleticism that she could hang and beat almost anybody on tour. I still have in my memory how she gave Serena all she could handle at the US Open in 2020. Maybe she needs a setting like that where people aren't really mentioning her as much. But I think she has the game and the serve to hang with just about anybody. And if she has a week of just believing in herself, and if people in her team are telling her that you are the top player that the rankings show that you are, I don't see why she can't have a breakthrough and finally win a trophy outside of Rabat.
And why is she not winning it, Jethro?
I can see her going deep, but I'm still just concerned about her game when it comes to, semi-final, final level, especially at Grand Slam. She hasn't, been right at the deep end of a Grand Slam for a while, and and it's her. Yeah, I think just the way she deals with pressure is still a concern. I think she's a fantastic player, but yeah, there are still question marks about that. And I just think if she's up against, one of the top 4, top 5, like a Jabeur or a Sabalenka in the semi-finals, I just don't think Sakkari would just have it in her to win that. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm just not confident in her ability to handle pressure yet.
Fair enough. Talking of pressure, let's go with Ons Jabeur, Jethro.
Well, she's got all the tricks in the book. She's a fantastic shot maker, and she's getting closer and closer to being a real slam contender. I mean, we all thought she was going to win Wimbledon last year, and then Rybakina played a fantastic final from the second set onwards to kind of snatch that away from her. But she very nearly made the final against Iga in New York very competitive. But yeah, she's good I think she's good in all conditions. Whether it's a clay court or whether it's a quick court. Australia's quick, and yeah, she's just got such good hand skills. She's so talented. She can blast players off the court. She can craft her way out of tricky situations, and she has got the game to beat anybody. I think she might need a good draw and bring her best level in every match she plays, because when she plays poorly, then she is very susceptible to an upset. But I think she can definitely win the Australian Open.
Miles, why is she not winning it?
I think to a certain degree, the variety in her game kind of is to her own detriment. I believe that she has so many tools in her arsenal that sometimes she doesn't pick the right one against the right player in the right situation. And again, if she puts herself into the later rounds of a tournament, it's going to be that question again, kind of looming from the media and from reporters. Can you do it this time? And if she doesn't, sleep on those questions well and is kind of self-doubting herself, we won't see her lifting the trophy this time. So,
Jethro, why is Holger Rune winning the Australian Open?
Oh, that's interesting. I would actually have a really good against argument for him, but yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he ended the season incredibly well. In a way, it's a bit of a shame we didn't see him at the ATP finals, just because that would have been really interesting to see how we held up against all of those players. But yeah, that win in Paris was amazing. He's improved so much. That's so, like the serve is going to serve him really well. In Australia with the quick courts, it's a real weapon now, and his forehand's massive. He's got a really good backhand. He's got the game. He's not scared of anyone. He's a big match player, which we've seen many times with that win over Djokovic and Tsitsipas and at the French Open. So yeah, I think I'm not even thinking draw. I think he's got the ability to take on anyone. I think we're probably going to see like an Alcaraz like year from him. Maybe he'll regress a bit because people are figuring him out. But yeah, he's got the tools, I would say.
Miles, why is he not winning it?
I think there's a certain level of experience and professionalism and a combination of both that he just hasn't tapped all the way into. I think he's well on his way, but I just simply don't think he has all of the tools, kind of similar to what I was saying with Ons Jabeur. I think he has tools in his arsenal. I just don't know if he's tapped into all of them enough yet to win 7 matches over the course of 2 weeks, especially at the elite level that a lot of players bring to a Grand Slam. So I think he has great potential to go deep, but winning it seems like too far of a stretch.
Okay, the final player on my list. It's a man, and I want you, Jethro, to tell me why Felix Auger-Aliassime is going to win the Australian Open.
I'm sorry, Miles. I know you really... We can swap if you want.
Yeah,
no. Oh wait, no, I actually have a question mark, so you can go ahead, Jethro. You can take
okay.
Go on, Jethro. Go on.
Yeah, I think last Australian Open was enough for me to know that he definitely can win this tournament. He was 2 points away from. It was match points away from beating Medvedev, and Medvedev, needed huge clutch serves to get him out of jail. And if the backhand holds up, then I think Felix, he's got the serve, he's got the forehand. The +1 game is, elite level. And his game at Grand Slams was really, really impressive this year. And I think he'll do that again this year. And he's definitely one of the contenders easily.
Miles, why is he not winning it?
I question a couple of different things. As much as I am big on Felix and his potential in the game, I question how he's going to deal with the change of scenery and conditions, because I do believe those 3 weeks and 4 weeks, if you include the ATP finals, he got accustomed to the conditions and he realized that they suited his game really, really well. They're going to be drastically different in Australia, and his first match of the season proved somewhat that he hasn't adjusted quite well yet. I do think he's a great Grand Slam player. I think he kind of gets up for it, but we've also seen him lose early in Grand Slams to players that may cause trouble, but you ultimately think that a player of his caliber and talent level should be able to see through, and he hasn't been able to do that. So if he puts himself in a position, or the draw gives him a questionable player that's unseeded, maybe like I kind of want to see this for entertainment purposes, but if he gets somebody like a Stan Wawrinka, and Stan Wawrinka just plays a incredible match, on paper you think Felix should be able to win that based off of form, but we've seen some players kind of just catch him slipping. So if he's caught slipping in a big match moment against a player who's hot, he loses. So that would be unfortunate, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, as is the end of this show. Thank you, by the way, both of you, for joining me. It's been an entertaining show, exactly as I wanted it to be. If there is a player, ladies and gentlemen, that you would like to have discussed, and you're spitting your porridge out if it's breakfast where you are, or you're spewing on your tea or vodka, or whatever it is that is your tipple at this time of day, evening, or night, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, or at least at Talking Tennis, TT. I'll put this all up on the screen. Miles is at Tuned Into Tennis, or Jethro at Jethro_SB. I'll put this up on the screen right now. So we do something like this. I'll create this banner and we'll do something like that. That more or less gets it done. Oh, that's J Silk. Wrong one. Sorry. Just remind me, Miles, of your Twitter again. Sorry.
Tuned into tennis. All one word. Yeah.
Tuned into tennis. Okay. I don't know why I lost that, but there we go. At Talking Tennis TT. And what are you, Jethro?
Jethro_SB.
So hopefully you guys don't mind if you get spammed in the next couple of days with people saying, why didn't you do Cam Norrie? Why didn't you do
Raducanu?
Who?
Raducanu.
Raducanu. Yeah. She has a fan base for sure. And many, many others. Feel free to tweet us. If we have a case for or against, we will offer it. But in the case of perhaps Trevisan, we can neither think of one for or against. So we might just give that one a wide berth. By the way, I'm a big Trevisan fan, and I loved the celebration she did against Sakkari. It was a lot of fun. And she provided a lot of fun throughout the Night Cup. Listen, Jethro, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah.
Miles, thanks to you too.
Always a pleasure. Happy to be
Hopefully
here.
we'll be crossing paths again over the next week or two, afternoon, evening, night, or morning, or whatever time it is, wherever in the world you are. Make sure you give these guys a follow on Twitter and tweet them your thoughts on the Australian Open. To the rest of you, make sure you get in the comments below if you are watching retrospectively, and we'll speak to you all very, very, very soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.